Mic, camera, action.
You wanna know what pain is? What? I'll tell you what pain is, you fuck.
Why are you calling me a fuck?
Because, my friend, you brought me here, and I didn't particularly want to go here, but now I am. So if you don't want to go where I'm about to go, then you better tell me right now, and I'll walk out the fucking door, I'll phone my therapist, and that will be it, okay? End of story.
No, fuck that. I want to hear this. You're not going anywhere.
You want to know what it is?
Yes, I want to know what it is. Did we go over this?
Motherfucker, you want to know what it is?
Yes!
Pain, my friend, is when the woman you love wants to fuck you 4 or 5 times a night, and you can't.
Why?
Why? Why? I'll tell you why. Because I'm an impotent man, motherfucker. That's pain. That's fucking pain. When your wife wants to fuck you 4 times a night, and you fucking can't. You know that some fucker before you could, and you know that some fucker after you will. Well, I couldn't cope with that, could I? That sense of ruination. That insolvency that burns in your soul. I couldn't fuck my wife. Do you know what that fucking means, mate? Do you understand what impotent rage really is?
I'm sorry.
You have no fucking idea, mate.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're sorry. Oh, you're sorry, are you? You dare. You dare. You fucking dare ask me if there's a God? Well, man, I feel forsaken. I feel cheated, you cunt! I've lost in the big game! And nothing else fucking matters. It doesn't matter what you do. If you can't hack it in the sack, mate, if you can't hack it in the game of love and sex, you are shit, my friend. Because you can't do what the other man can do to your fucking wife, mate.
Welcome back to Filmography, the show dedicated to watching every credited film from an actor's complete back catalogue, from past debut through to present day, in chronological order. Each episode, I'm joined by an esteemed guest to watch and discuss the next entry from the focused filmography and consider how it ranks amidst their career and whether we can trace any typecasting trends or topic traits or theatrical tics. For episode 12, I'm joined once again by my big brother from another mother to discuss the 12th big screen appearance of the Stath and his on-screen reunion with Chris Evans and Jessica Biel just 1 year on from Cellular in London. We watch, you listen, and hopefully watch along too. So before we get into the film, I think what I have to do is thank you, Tony, for totally taking one for the team.
Falling on the sword, as Dave has already done.
You're returning now for this 3rd episode. This was kind of impromptu. This wasn't
right,
planned.
because my 3rd one was going to be Death Race, which I'm still
You're still, of course, attached to.
Yeah, I fucking love Death Race. So this one, not so much.
Yeah, I couldn't get anybody to take this one. So the good guy that you are.
I heard you and Rhea talk about it, and she, I believe, said I was lovely for agreeing to do this.
I mean, as you now know, having seen the film, you are more than lovely.
It's bad. Oh, it's so bad.
It's so bad. And the lovely Glyn is watching along. And he messaged me on Twitter the other day to say, oh, I should have listened to you and not bothered watching this film, which, yet more confirmation. If we've got time later, I might just jump into my Twitter profile and read a couple of the back and forths between me and Glyn.
That would be hysterical. Yes. I would love to hear what Glyn has to say.
He's
got some big ones coming up.
He has. Yeah. It's going to be really great because we've been chatting quite a bit because of his lovely support for the show. So it's nice to get him on, and he's a big action movie aficionado.
Oh, yeah.
So.
And he likes junk too. So you'd think this one would be right up his alley, but it's not an action movie. It's just junk.
There's junk and there's junk, right? Because
yeah.
I like junk too. I know you do as well.
For sure.
Our friend Dan, he likes watching a lot of junk, but I think probably he'd even call this one worse than junk.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
I just keep coming back to, as we'll discuss. I can't believe this got made.
Yeah, it's interesting. Two filmmakers spring to mind for me like this film kind of echoes or wants to be like. One of them, I think, will be a comparison that will make you quite upset.
The before movies.
Yeah, I mean, he
Yeah,
wants
of
to be
course.
Richard Linklater, doesn't he?
100%. Yeah, I mean, I saw it when I'm watching it. I'm like, oh, you've missed the point of those films.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Is it Hunter Richards? I think is the writer
Yeah, and
director
he
in that.
only has 3 credits.
Yeah, and one
He's a
directorial one, I
ghostwriter.
think.
Yeah, he's a script doctor mostly.
Hmm.
But so that's a job. That's a real job. Carrie Fisher.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
It has been known that Carrie Fisher wrote a lot of movies that you didn't know Carrie Fisher wrote.
Sure, sure.
So-
And obviously,
so-
he who we don't be named before.
Speed.
Yeah, yeah. And Toy Story.
He's credited as Toy Story.
That's true. Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's his credit. But Speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
What do you do?
Tarantino as
That's
well,
it.
actually, before he blew up. He did some script doctoring, like
Yeah, and I
Crimson
get it.
Tide and
Yeah, if you're good with dialogue, I mean, I get it. You need a dialogue writer. I mean, it's been widely known that every word that came out of Carrie Fisher's mouth in all of the Star Wars movies, she wrote herself.
right.
Because she's like, these are. I am not going to say that. Here's what I will say instead. Yeah. So I'm sure she wrote a lot of Harrison Ford's lines because I know he struggled with the script as well.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true.
Yeah. But anyway, this
we
movie
know
clearly,
they were close on set, right?
yes, right. I see that this is a love letter to Linklater and it fails. It's a not everybody can do what Linklater does, and
No.
Hunter Richards can't.
I mean, arguably, nobody can do what Linklater
Nobody
does,
can.
actually.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, I don't think I'm as big a fan as you are, but I am a big fan.
Yeah.
And my partner is also a really big fan, particularly the before movies, but of Linklater in general. She's not such a big fan of his dudes hangout movies, such as Dazed and Confused and
Everybody Wants Them.
Everyone Wants Them. Thank you. Their name was escaping me.
I couldn't get through Everybody Wants Them. I was like, what?
Oh, shame.
I think he should have made it. I fell asleep. I've never fallen asleep and I don't fall asleep in the before movies. Like I'm at the edge of my seat, just people walking around talking. That movie, I don't know, it lulled in the middle, and I don't know. I felt that even Richard was like, I probably should have made this right after because it's supposed to be the sequel to Everybody Wants Some, or to Dazed and Confused. And he should have probably made it the next year. But instead, he made other things that we're happy he made.
Yeah.
But even his like Fast Food Nation, even a movie that's like that, the dialogue still just crackles, and he's still that's a real, that's a based on a true story, that's based on a nonfiction book, and he still finds a way in. And I just don't find my way into any of these characters. And these are actors in this movie who can do good dialogue. You've even got a stand-up comic in here who we accidentally talked about that one episode.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all trying too. That's the thing.
I have to say, like, most people in this are pretty decent. Even like, Jessica Biel is in a really thankless role, a horrible role. But you can tell she's trying. She's bringing her A game. Evans and Statham are the main stars, obviously, and they're bringing their A game. They're both really trying. And I think
Joy Bryant is very good.
Yeah, she is. Yeah. Yeah. I think everybody's trying, even like the small bit parts. Is it Kelly Garner, I think, who plays the
teenager?
The teenager, like she's really good in her scene.
And Isla really
Fisher is great.
She's like cranked it up to Angry 11. Yeah. And it's just like it should work.
But it's what they're being asked to say, unfortunately.
Oh, it's so bad. I wonder.
Go on.
No, I just wonder. I'm just fascinated. I don't know how much research. I'm just fascinating to know how it happened.
Yeah, I don't. So, I mean, obviously, the three of Bill, Statham, Evans have been together the year before. I assume they had a great time making Cellular.
Sure.
When this opportunity came up, maybe one called the other, or that it seems like a confluence of events that they're all in it together. I know Evans and Bill were maybe in a relationship at this point, or around here they were together, weren't they? So maybe they wanted to act together, but somebody got on with Stath because suddenly they're all together. So imagine they want to have a good time, and they probably did have a laugh making this, but it just doesn't translate. It doesn't translate.
And I wonder too, how things get lost in the editing suite too. And this could easily have been, because it's written and directed by him, but I didn't look to see who the editor was. I'm assuming he didn't cut it. And I think that matters a lot.
Yeah, I mean, editor is a unsung hero of a job. I mean, I'm not sure it would have saved this, if I'm honest, but
no, but sometimes the editor gets asked to do stuff that that the producer wants done, and so it can sometimes the producer can take over the editor's job. And again,
sure.
It's not like it's poorly edited. It's not like the cuts are bad because we slip in and out of time. So the editor did a fine job with that. I think it's just I don't know. Is there? It feels like there's maybe a fourth act we're missing. I don't understand it.
I mean, I think it's something that I comment on a bit. Obviously, being a film studies teacher and having to watch student films. I mean, that's what this is. This is a student film with a budget.
Ugh.
And there's a really good Letterboxd review I've got that I'll.
Oh, good! I can't wait.
I'll read that later.
I was excited. I know you end with those. I can't wait. I'm like, all right.
It talks about that kind of idea, so I won't encroach upon that review too much. And I'm trying, I do read them before, obviously, because I've got to find them, but I try not to let them completely color what I'm going to say. I think the large problem with this is that he wants to be Richard Linklater, but he's watched a lot of Kevin Smith. Now, I really like Kevin Smith, a lot of his work, and I know you're a fan too. A lot of his work. I am,
but excellent. I'm hearing you. I'm hearing that. Yeah.
But the two aren't the same, and the two do not go together.
No.
And I think this film is almost an attempt to mold and meld those two worlds.
But I think Kevin would even say, I'm not Richard Linklater.
Oh, agreed. Yeah. He
knows he can't. I mean, because, and part of the reason why the Randall's dialogues work in the Clerks movies is because he's not a really good actor.
Sure.
And he knows it, right? And so it sounds like when you hear Randall talk, and he wrote that for himself, Kevin Smith did originally. But when you hear it, that actor has clearly made it his own. And so when you hear, what's his name? Jason O'Halloran?
Yeah.
No,
that's Dante, isn't it? Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Well, sorry, sir. We know who you are. When we see you, we're like, you're
Randall. You are Randall, basically. Yeah.
Right. But we see him and the way that it is in that nasally, just the way that he da-da-da-da-da. And you can tell the way that he does the lines, you can tell like Randall, not the actor, but Randall has thought about this a long time before he said it. It's not off the cuff. Where the reason that Linklater works is because it is off the cuff. It's just them walking and talking. And what the punchline is especially with the trilogy, they wrote those together. And they rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed so that it seems natural. And they're all friends. So it makes it easy to be like, okay, they just slip back into Jesse and Celine and, they're great friends now. You got to go fight. And so that's the talent of them as actors. But that doesn't feel rehearsed because Delphi and Hawk are excellent actors. Where the guy playing Randall, he's playing a guy who's like almost an incel, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so that Randall sat home all day thinking of clever things to say to Dante, and his whole life is trying to get Dante to laugh by saying the most outrageous, or make Dante mad by saying the most outrageous things. So his delivery is done in a way that feels deliberately rehearsed. Do you know what I mean? Like
I do, yeah.
So it works where you've got these really good actors giving it their all, being actors, reading lines that seem deliberately rehearsed.
Yeah.
And so it does not work. So I like exactly what you're saying, the mashup of the two, but now that I'm just talking my way through it, because that was not rehearsed. That was just, I heard what you said. I'm like, oh my God, this is it. This is it. Well done, sir. You nailed it.
And I think it's the overwrougughtness of the dialogue, isn't it? They probably did rehearse. I think it has that stagey play feel, doesn't it? With just a couple of rooms, couple of locations. But I imagine this guy wrote this as a spec script, maybe for a film degree course. And then for years and years and years and years. I don't know this. This is pure, having lived kind of through part of this life, but never obviously broke through. So now I critique other people's work because that's what failed writers and filmmakers do, right?
Yeah.
But it feels like somebody who's written this, maybe it was a dissertation, and then they've written it and written it and written it and written it. It's got so overwrought. This is not how people talk. And again, I'm a big Tarantino fan. That isn't how people talk, but it is within his movie universe he's created.
Mm-hmm.
Those films all have a patter to them and they all fit together. This is just,
they're written with they're almost like verse.
Yeah, nice. I like that. Whereas this is just, I mean, as you said, we've got the teenage character played by Kelly Garner who has like one strong scene, and she's talking about philosophy and God and religion, and it's just not how a teenager at that age on coke would talk.
No, and a teenager on coke hanging around with adults who all want to bang her. That whole scene is just gross. What's happening?
I mean, that's one of the things that we're Glenn and I were talking about, that particular scene, and the Stace character called Bateman, which I want to talk about in a bit.
I have thoughts on that.
Yeah, me too. But they're probably the same.
Yeah.
The Stace character being like, well, now I know she's 16. Now I want to bang her even more. No, that's not good. That's not good at all.
And he had to say that line.
Yeah.
He didn't say, listen, Hunter, no. I don't know if you know what I look like, but I was born looking like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was born looking 40, and I will look 40 until I'm 90. So no.
Yeah.
This is not that movie.
But I think he is meant to be playing his age, isn't he? Because there is a reference in the movie there being the age difference. Because Sid, Chris Evans' character, is meant to be early 20s, I think, as matching as he is. He's meant to be sort of 15 years older, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's just a random guy that he's met in there. Just to apologise to Jeff Anderson. That's his name.
Jeff Anderson. Randall. Yep, I looked it up too.
Oh, good. And Brian O'Halloran, not Jason O'Halloran.
Brian, sorry, Jason Mewes. We listen. All I know is that Clerks 3. When I saw the trailer for Clerks 3, I cried. So,
like I say, in 3 weeks' time, whatever it is, we'll all be talking about their names and.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And, did you see Sarah's in Clerks 3?
I didn't know. Awesome.
I know. I don't care who she is. It doesn't matter. I mean, nobody needs to be in it. We're going to see it no matter what.
Absolutely, yeah.
But just so that the editor of this film, I was just curious because I and again, she's called Tracy Wadmore Smith. She is no joke. She did, before this, she did Sweet Home Alabama and Hitch. So those are like big hits. It's not like those are great films, but those are big hits.
Yeah.
Then she did this, and then she did some indie movies. It looks like she did The Brother Solomon, which is awful. But then she did Fool's Gold, Fired Up, Death at a Funeral, the American version, How Do You Know, Cool as I Am, About Last Night, Wild Oats, Edge of 17. And then she did the Stargirl show. Like, she's got shit going on. Like, she's an editor. So
yeah.
I'm not blaming her for this. At first I was like trying to be like, who is this? Again, it's a student film. She's doing a student film. Nope.
I think in this instance, I'm afraid all the blame is laid at feet of one person, really, and it feels like a writer-director's movie where, like, I've got loads of things to say, and this is what I'm going to say through my words, and I'm going to say it through these people, and I'm going to minimalist direction because the words are what's important. It feels like that kind of movie. Unfortunately, the words that are being said are misogynistic and vile and not quite homophobic, I wouldn't say, but
on the edge, though.
Yeah, exactly. Certainly not open-minded about other people. No.
But then it tries to have it both way with Bateman's scene with where he goes to the dominatrix and stuff. So it's trying, and he's like, don't judge. And you're trying to have it both ways. And I just have to say, we can spoil, obviously, because nobody's going to watch this piece of shit.
Nobody watched this. Just listen to us say don't watch it.
Just don't watch it. That should be the warning at the beginning. Please just listen and don't watch. This is one that you need to direct it yourself, because this is one you would watch if Spider-Dan covered, and then you'd be like, oh shit.
Yes.
What did I do? What did I do to myself? The thing. Okay, so I wrote a story. This is years ago. And again, talking about thinking you have something big to say. So I wrote a story when I was in college, and it's called Reality. And what I did was I told a story about a guy who's sitting at a fast food restaurant in Eugene, Oregon, and he's miserable and he's awful and he doesn't want to deal with his own bullshit. So what he does is he makes up stories about the people who come in to avoid thinking of his own life. So there's these people walk in and he sees them. And so we cut to a whole story about these people that seems real, and it's written and it's about them. And here's their thing. They have middle names and kids' names, this whole thing. And then the story ends and we come back to the main guy who's sitting in the Oregon the Eugene, Oregon McDonald's. And we do this a few times until he finally tells his own story. So none of those stories are real, but they seem real because they're real to him. And then he get to the end and you discover what his whole thing is. And then he runs back. He realizes like he can't live in this fantasy land. He has to go home. It's a good, personally, I think it was a really good idea, but the end, I couldn't get out of it. Like I couldn't figure out what sent him there. So the thing I did is the thing that like I was 20 at the time. It's all like your heart is broken. So it had him be like his heart is broken. Now, if I were to ever go back and rewrite that story, that isn't the reason. It needs to be it. And I'm not shitting on heartbreak, but what I'm saying is the things that upset them, the things that drive them into this cocaine and rage fueled evening is bullshit.
Yes.
And so the entire movie is based on something that's bullshit. And I can look back at that story and be like, there's some good moments in there. And I've never gone back and revisited it, but I know full well that the payoff sucks. That's a bad story. It's good idea. And it's making the reader go, what's real, what's not real. And if I were to redo it, I probably wouldn't give away the ending. I would never let you know what he did.
Yeah.
I would just be like, the clues would be, I'd cut his whole story completely and let his story be told through the perspective of these other three people. So you're like, oh, I wonder what he's about. That would be the way I'd fix that story if I ever were to go back and fix it. And honestly, I didn't think about that story at all until I watched this movie and it was like, this is the bad story that I wrote when I was 20.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's a bad movie with the budget. Like, I don't understand. If somebody would have given me a budget when I was 20 to make a movie and that's the movie I made, I'd be so disappointed in myself because that ending is stupid. And the entire thing, this is like toxic masculinity.
Oh, man.
Cranked up to 1,000. And I don't understand. Again, I don't understand. And I get, okay, you're like, it's of its time. It's not of its time. This wasn't done in 1956.
No, it's not. I was just trying to work out, if I could, how old he is. But yeah, as you were saying that, because you're absolutely right. It has that feel of someone just being that age and being given this chance, and this is their big moment. And
this is the thing. I mean,
okay, so he's 50.
He's older than me.
Yeah, so when he made this, what, in 2005?
So he was in his 30s.
Yeah.
So maybe he wrote it though. Again, how long ago did he write it? Did he write it and he hung on to it and they were like, hey, maybe you should punch that up a little, and maybe you are a script doctor. Maybe you should go in there and go like, hey, I've built this entire house on sand, and that's not going to work because it's just hard to get with. Sid is a monster.
He's horrible. Yeah.
And Bateman, which we know we'll talk about when we talk about the Stath's performance. But even though his IMDb picture, though, I love, I don't know if you've, like when you go to this, he's like, he's still, Stathing it up in that picture. But they're terrible people.
They are. I mean, Bateman's marginally less terrible, but only just. I mean, he has an awful line about Kelly Garner teenager character. That is awful. But he's not, I guess maybe if we got the flashbacks, he'd seem worse because Sid is awful in present time. But we see him gaslighting Jessica Biel's girlfriend character in the past. London, the titular character, London, When you see him gaslighting her in the past, like it is really hard to watch. And, these terms didn't exist then. Even when this film came out, toxic masculinity and gaslighting, not in the way that we use them, as frequently as we use them now. But it's 100% what's going on.
It's terrible.
So let's just cycle back a little bit because we're saying like, no. I think this is what we knew was going to happen. And as you said, we haven't really talked about it because we don't. We tried to come to everything fresh and learn from each other and hear each other.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it at all, other than like, oof, I believe is what I wrote.
Oof. This might be a short one today, is what I think we were saying. Yeah. But so people know what this film is about because they're not going to go and watch it. They shouldn't go and watch it. I think the poster tagline says a lot. I don't know if you saw it.
No.
So it says a film about love and her victims, which from a male perspective, we obviously know what he's trying to say here. That Sid has been wronged by London, which, as we know from watching it, he absolutely has not.
100%.
That's the film in a nutshell, isn't it? Sid is in a funk because he's broken up. London has broken up with him. She's got a new boyfriend. she's happy, and she's going to move away with him
to Los Angeles.
To Los Angeles from New York.
It looks like it.
Yeah. So from
could be Chicago. It's some other city.
So she's moving away to LA, and then it's her going away party. He finds out about it whilst buying coke off the Stath, which is a random guy he's just met that night. And then he drags him to the party. And then the rest of it is mostly set in the swanky bathroom of this swanky apartment that is Isla Fisher's character's parents. And yeah, they solve the world up in the bathroom whilst taking Scarface levels of coke.
That is exactly it, isn't it? And the punchline is that there's a movie there. Because like one of the movies I put on my Shakespeare episode with Spider-Dan, The Sisters, was a play first. And when you watch that movie, you're like, oh, you can see that it was a play. Like the whole thing is even set. It's in this faculty lounge, and they even build the staircase up to represent the old Shakespearean theater. Nice. So, you know, there's a few outside scenes, but for the most part, even the entire film is in this confined space. House of O, Parker Posey's House of O, same thing. That used to be a play. You can tell. You're like, oh, so like what you're saying is this had that sense that this could have been a stage play. And so because there are only 3 settings, you could have made it a stage play. And I think having the 2 guys getting coked up and solving all the problems of the world, that is an interesting movie. But the basis of it, the fact that it's love and all her, I looked at you, I didn't even think to look at that, love and all her victims, and it's her victims.
Yeah, quite.
And the way that the poster is shot with Jessica Biel's face big and up front, you know, so it's like she's looking up and to the left like she's posing in a 1970s family photo, but she's the villain she's meant to be the villain. And so there is a story there about 2 heartbroken dudes getting drunk and talking. That would be interesting. I would watch that as a 2-man play.
Yeah, sure.
It would be fascinating. Like the original Steel Magnolias is a 6-person play. There's nobody else in it. It's just the 6 of them. The whole thing takes place at Truvy's. And so all the other characters only exist in conversation. So that it could be done.
And imagine it with these 2. It could be done with these 2 as well.
Oh, I know. Because, you know, Sid looks at Bateman as like a sage.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
And so, you know, you could go on, because you have the sage and you have the Padawan. You could go on the hero's journey with 2 guys snorting coke in a bathroom. There's a story there, and it's just woeful. And I can't get past to use my Chris Phelps word. It is woeful.
It is. And it's almost, and I think when you talk about this later, it's almost, I can't decide. I watched it and I just thought, God, this is shit. And I remember watching it years ago and thinking, oh, God, this is shit.
And yet you chose to do this and say, I got to watch that again.
Yeah, I know. Good point. But afterwards, I was thinking, is it so clever that it knows it's shit? And it's saying something about the men by showing them. I don't know. I don't think it is that clever, but I think actually the better version of this film is the film that knows it's depicting these 2 as horrible people, and they need to go on a journey. They need to learn something by the end, because there's little moments where it almost offers glimmers of hope. Like London says to Sid, like, I'm so tired of your pseudo-intellectual bullshit, during one of their various arguments we see them having in the past. And she calls him out. She calls him like a dipshit, and like, I hate the way you're talking to me and the way you make me feel. So there's moments where it's acknowledging that he's not a good guy. But then what he doesn't get is a resolution that shows he's learned anything. Because by the end of the film, he gets to sleep with her again and have his perfect goodbye.
Here, so again, you know what, like I like to do, you can make anything into anything. So as I was watching it, I want something to be self-aware. I like something that's self-aware. Until the end, I could give you that it's self-aware, but then it gives you the ending, and this is what I'll say. This is the other Kevin Smith thing. It gives you the Mallrats ending. which is bullshit. Right? The ending of Mallrats is bullshit. They all get the girls of their dreams.
Yeah.
Because why would they? They wouldn't. They're terrible the whole movie.
Yeah.
Awful. Jeremy London, another London. He's a dipshit the whole movie. Everybody sucks. And with Brody, Jason Lee, he's the worst. And yet at the end, they get the girls back. That is such bullshit. That is totally like white male fantasy. I deserve it. I can be a dick to you, but I'm so charming. And it's not like, again, to use Ethan Hawke as the person, there's a line in Reality Bites where Ethan Hawke says, you listen, I can't be reliable for you. I'm going to paraphrase. He's like, I'm going to be mean to you sometimes. I'm not going to call back sometimes. And that's just who I am. Deal with it or don't. This is what it is. He never says to Winona's character, like, he's not trying to gaslight her. He's saying out loud, I'm a dick. I'm awful.
And this is who I am.
I'm depressed. I dropped out of school. I'm a borderline alcoholic. My dad just died. I feel lost in sea. All I want to do is be in a band. And she's like, if you want to be in a band, be in a goddamn band. And that's the argument that he has. And he's like, but I'm an asshole. He says it out loud, right? He's totally self-aware. So at the end of Reality Bites, they end up together, but her eyes are open and his eyes are open. They know this is going to be rocky. And we don't think that in the sequel to Reality Bites, they're together.
Sure.
They are not.
That's like another Ethan Hawke.
Right. It is another Ethan Hawke. But again, it is. I'm a big fan, as you know. I'm an apologist even. But
no, you don't need to apologize for Ethan Hawke, not at all.
He's so great. But the thing about that film, and again, Ben Stiller was there script actoring that over the top of it as he was directing that film. So he fixed, I'm sure, in the original draft, it was this male fantasy ending as opposed to like, oh, it's an ugly ending. It's unsure. They're broke. She's in debt. She's put all that money on her credit card. It's called Reality Bites. It tells you how it's going to end. So, but this is, I think when I see this, I got to the ending. So I'm with you thinking about it being self-referential and being like, oh, this is something. There is something. And then the Bateman thing and his whole stuff. I'm like, oh, well, because I'm convinced, having just recently reread American Psycho, none of it's real. None of American Psycho is real. None of the murders, none of the assaults, nothing is real. Patrick Bateman is an unwell person living in a fantasy. I feel like it's Catcher in the Rye. Like the whole thing of American Psycho is Patrick Bateman is in a mental institution and this is what's happening in his head. None of this is real. Sure. And there's a lot of hints in the book and in the film, I think, that lead you to believe that none of it is real. So you name him Bateman almost to be so clever by half to say, okay, he's not real. Like all his story is all bullshit and everything. But then again, at the end, he gets to hook up with the hot woman.
With Mallory,
and they get to go off. Yeah. And somehow Mallory is going to save him. Like he can't get it up. And his whole thing is he's impotent. And this is his whole literal impotent rage. And
yeah, can't. I'm impotent. Can't.
Oh my God. And again, poor Jason, he had to do that. But at the end, somehow Mallory's going to save him because all he needs is the right woman. And it's really that frigid bitch's fault. That's what we're being told.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because Mallory isn't. Mallory is hot and she wears low-rise jeans and she's a bartender and
she likes funny, an accent, and that's enough.
And she loves an accent.
She doesn't mind a wiggy comb over.
Oh God, we have not even talked about the wigs yet. But anyway, so I hear everything that you're saying. Long-winded way to say other movies have done it better, but other movies have done it exactly the same. So
yeah,
I want to believe you, and I think until the end, if it ends the right way with the two of them alone on the sidewalk,
sure,
then it's the move. Then it's everything. It is, but they get their happy ending, and it's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's just you undid everything. Like you said, they learned. So ultimately they learned nothing.
It's interesting that you making that comparison to American Psycho. I was there with you. That's 100% what I was thinking with the name Bateman. And also, obviously for me watching, I've never read the book. For me watching that movie, I prefer Rules of Attraction, if I'm honest, as a
that's
story.
That's what you said. Yeah, I haven't gone back and I'm going to reread that.
We know that's all calculated. We know that's a critique of male ego and the fragile male psyche,
which is what Brett's doing. That's his whole thing. Yeah.
And then you saying about how like Bateman in this, the Stath character, may well be imagined, and actually it's Sid's problem with impotency and stuff. That's really interesting because then, as you were talking, Fight Club jumped into my head.
Sure.
Actually, there's a lot of Palahniuk in this as well.
Yeah.
That's maybe another influence upon Hunter Richards in his writing and what he was trying to do, which,
but not as well.
yeah, again, a comparison that does this film and his work no favors.
But yeah, it could easily be. The Bateman could be his Tyler. This is who he wants to be. Yeah. But then Mallory sees him.
Yeah.
So therefore, it can't be real because they're side by side. I mean, because there is even that moment where he leaves the bathroom and it's just Mal and Sid up there for a while. And so there is that opportunity to be like, oh, you're right. The influences are there, but you've missed the point.
Yeah. And all of it completely.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know if you ever did you watch Californication, David Duchovny?
The show? No, but I know of it. And he's like a sex addict, right? Isn't that the point of that
really
show?
good. Yeah, really good show. And like a lot of the time he's not a good guy, but again, as you were saying, he like owns it. It's completely different in that way with that character. But in that show, I think it's in season 2, slight spoiler, but nothing too bad. Or I think it's the end of season 1. He's got writer's block. He wrote this book, which I think is called like, what's it called? It's called like God is bullshit or something like that.
Nice. Now I need to see that show.
I can't remember. It's God is something. And he, like, this one book made his name, and he's had writer's block ever since. And then the course of events of season 1 lead him to write a new book, what he's been through, and he calls it Fucking and Punching. You can imagine perhaps where the inspiration for that title came from.
I wonder.
Yeah, he's quite a provocative character and writer. Duchovny is amazing in that show. But the reason that this is, again, a long way around to say, like, really, a film about love and her victims does not fit this movie at all. It should be called Shouting and Snorting and Fucking. That should be the tagline, right?
100%.
That's all we get. It's like endless scenes of these people like shouting at each other, or like Bateman and Sid shouting, or London and Sid shouting, or lots of London and Sid shagging.
Wow, that is some creative camera work. And I feel like this is one of those movies where this was definitely made pre intimacy coach.
Oh, yeah.
Because it would only, knowing, I didn't know that Chris and Jessica were together, but that's some handsome people. So
yeah, I mean, imagine their babies.
Well, she's with Justin, right?
She is.
But
it's not
like they had, I'm sure their kids are good looking too. But what I'm saying is, that could be how they got around shooting those scenes if they were really a couple, because it was like, you're asking a lot of Jessica Biel in this.
Well, I mean, that first scene is really, really uncomfortable. They're like having really passionate, and it looks, it looks passionate. It looks like a couple having really into each other's sex. And then she whispers to him, "Tell me when you're going to come," and goes down on him for him to come, not to be crude, like in her mouth, like porno style. It was really weird.
It was so weird.
It
like,
didn't
what movie
fit what was.
Yeah,
exactly. It was really. It jolted me because that is not reality.
Again,
so immediately
male fantasy bullshit.
That's it.
And there's the blowjob joke in. God, I can't believe I'm going to keep comparing this to Mallrats. But now that you've said Kevin Smith, and again, I think Mallrats. I enjoyed Mallrats fine, but I think it's his weakest entry. For lots of reasons. I think the acting is. There's a lot to like in there, but I think it's his weakest entry. Even though it does give us Stan, but there's the blowjob joke in there, and like Brody's whole thinks the whole reason that Brenda, I mean, whatever her name is in that movie, but there's the guy who walks up to her and calls her Brenda. Shannon Doherty's character breaks up with him because he farted while she was giving him head, and there's a whole conversation about that. I'm like, okay, this tells you everything you need to know about Brody, what kind of douchebag he is, and so again, but that he's a douchebag. Right. And that's part of this comedy. This isn't a comedy. This isn't supposed to be played for laughs. It's definitely not supposed to be porn. And again, so weird that scene, it is. And their sex scenes are uncomfortably long in this movie. So it's like, okay, did you get enough coverage there? I mean, to me, if you're going to shoot I'm not a filmmaker, but if I were to be a filmmaker and I was going to shoot a sex scene, I would get all the cameras and get enough coverage to do it in one. Unless somebody laughs or somebody's cell phone goes off, I don't want to do this more than once. I don't want anybody to have to do it more than once. Right. It's cold. It's not, you're not really having a good time.
No.
Even if you're a couple, because there's a bunch of people watching, Jessica Biel clearly has a no nudity policy. So that camera angles have to be very particular. So she can't really move the way that she would probably move. But obviously Chris Evans is seeing it all. because she's facing. So it's like such a weird, uncomfortable, and they're so long.
They
I mean, this
are.
is like a 60-minute movie if you made the sex scenes remotely better and
Yeah.
not so uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, yeah, you talk about, because the other scene that jumps out to me is when they're having a big row, aren't they?
Yeah.
And that's when she's like, I
Oh,
fucking hate you. And then it's hitting and slapping, and then that turns into sex too. It is all these weird, like soft, in this instance, softcore porn type
yeah,
style.
I did not. That's the one where they're out in LA and they're
Yeah,
like at the pool house. Yeah, and they have
yeah,
the fight, the fight sex.
yeah,
That was I just didn't need what that is such again male fantasy
yeah,
bullshit.
yeah.
I'm sorry. You're telling you're telling all of the dude bras who are seeing this, who are
Mm,
like, you can be mean, you can be an asshole, you can get into a slap fight with your girlfriend, and if she hits you, it means she wants to fuck you.
yeah,
It
absolutely. Yeah.
does not.
Mm,
And I know that the way that that ends, and this is where you saying maybe it's a little self-referential and aware of itself, because at the end of the bang, the hate bang,
mm.
she's mad and storms off.
Yeah. She's kind of
So,
got what she wants, I suppose, in that moment. She
right,
drives the sex, doesn't she?
she does, but she's still pissed when she leaves. So
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
but again, he still got to bang Jessica Biel.
sure. Yeah, yeah.
And if that's all you're looking for, because there's no love in this movie.
No, no, no.
This isn't nobody's heart's really broken.
No,
Statham's
he wants
impotent.
her to be his. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's possession.
It is possession because all he cares about is the size of the other bloke's dick. That gets brought up. He's got a massive penis, everything
Oh,
about the size of her
the,
new boyfriend's penis. And the fact that she's going to be with somebody else and he wants her back. That's all it is. Yeah.
and again, I am not a jealous person. Lee and I always talk about how we think jealousy is probably a gene thing,
Mm.
genetic thing. And I could be wrong, but like my first wife, my children's Emma and Rachel's mother was she was jealous about everything. Always, always.
Mm.
No matter where you were, who you were talking to, she'd be like, if I was talking to my cousin and he and I would be laughing, she'd get mad about that. Like she could be jealous about anything.
Mm.
That was just in her DNA, my opinion. But I'm not that way. So if she went out and she was like, oh, I'm going to go out and blah, 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 and we're going to go do, I'm like, okay, have fun. And then she'd get home and I would be like, how was your day? And she'd be like, blah, tell me. And then, oh, this happened and this happened. And then I wouldn't like give her the third degree. And her argument was, if you're not jealous, you don't care.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's so weird. And Lee's first spouse, he was overly jealous and overly paranoid or whatever. And we're just not that way. We're not competitive. We're not jealous. It's like, look, I'm with you. I'm going to trust you to be with me. And if you don't want to be with me, I would trust you to tell me that you don't want to be. So I don't need to worry that you're going to cheat on me or do anything because you're not.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And and that's just how we are with each other. And it just makes life easy. It just doesn't make any sense. Jealousy doesn't make any sense. But again, in this movie, what we're being told is being a jealous prick is an okay thing to do. And it's his way of showing love.
Mm.
And it works because London keeps falling for it.
She does.
It's like, well, he's so passionate. No, he's just a prick. It starts with him smashing his own house.
It does, yeah. And Isla Fisher, her character, is Rebecca, isn't it? She calls him out for it.
She does.
Like she tells London, like, this guy's no good for you, get rid of him, like, don't let him be around you again. So again, it's like these moments where the film kind of hints at you it's going to do something. And then, fails. It's such a shame.
It fails miserably.
Yeah.
It's so disappointing.
It's the type of people I think is problematic as well. I'll try and word this carefully. They're all clearly very financially secure, looking at where they live. Like Chris Evans's character can afford to buy a lot of coke and have a nice apartment, like loft apartment, and can smash it up and not care. Like Isla Fisher's parents, obviously very successful, looking at that apartment at London and considering it, even if it's like on a holiday or whatever, that's a very nice holiday.
Really nice place. Yeah.
I always find this kind of character in this kind of movie difficult to sympathize with because they have so many other things. And money isn't the be all and end all. I mean, I changed my career over 10 years ago to become a teacher, and I lost a lot of money in the process of doing that because I needed more in my life than money. Like I'm not motivated by money personally. So it's not like I'm jealous of that. To go back to jealousy, but it's like, I don't know if you have, I don't know what your equivalent of the shows over there is. Like we have something called Made in Chelsea, which is all about, like, Chelsea is an affluent area of London, and it's all about the kind of kids of rich people, and they get to just
Oh,
float around in their life
like
and do what they
90210.
want. I suppose, yeah, but this is like one
Yeah.
of those faux reality shows where like it's
Oh,
meant to
yeah.
be,
We had something, I think it was called The OC, which was like
but even that's
about,
scripted, isn't it?
oh,
I
is
suppose
it? Okay. I got nothing.
this is meant to be real, but it's clearly not. I mean, it's all scripted,
Oh,
so
okay.
they
It's
all,
like that Real Housewives of
yeah, that
whatever.
kind of thing, I
Gotcha.
suppose. Yeah,
Okay. Chris and Dave could tell us the name of all the real. I'm
sure.
sure that show exists.
And this is those sort of people. Like
Yeah.
you have so much privilege in your life that you can afford to get this upset about something that is not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what's Sid's job? I don't know. Like, what does he do? Like, how's he got all this money? He doesn't seem to go to work. They say he's been, what is it, a few months they've been broken up, and he's been
Hmm.
in a spiral ever since. So is his parents just paying for this? Or, yeah, I don't know. I just find these kind of insufferable, privileged people really hard to watch on screen.
It's true. And the person, and if you're going to talk about privilege, the one person of color we meet is the only one who has a
Mm,
job, like a hard job. Like anybody who's worked in customer service knows that it sucks. It's hard. And then to be a young, very attractive woman as a bartender, your
mm,
whole job all day is
getting hit
telling
on.
people, right, I'm being nice to you because it's my job.
Yeah.
My wife is a librarian, and librarians are nice people. They
Mm,
smile and talk to you. The librarians and the staff, the librarian staff, the clerks, the people you meet when you come into the library who say hello and smile at you. And the hostess at the restaurant, she may be
mm,
very pretty, but you know what her job is to smile at you and say, hello, how are you doing today? Nice to see you. May I seat you? She's not wanting to bang you in the bathroom, you asshole. So the one person of color, the one person really of color, I mean, there's some background
mm,
characters of color in this, is the only person who has a job.
mhm,
And so
mhm.
she's only fallen in with these people because she gives them drinks all day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, she's the help, but because she's hot, it's okay to be invited to the party, not to work the party.
Mm,
You know, so you talk about privilege. That was, I know she's fourth billing here. She's listed as
mm.
fourth billing, and she gets with the Stath at the end because she's going to cure his impotence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Mallory is, but it's just so on the nose, like
Mm,
everything that you said. And again, you mentioned, we talked about Bateman and Brett. There's clearly some of that here, which he's also missed.
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
He's missed the point of
Like you've
less.
picked
This
that
is
out
less than
for us.
zero.
He hasn't done that on purpose. That's a complete accident. I don't think he's written. I don't think he's written that as a commentary. Do you?
No, but I'm
No.
saying
Yeah.
it's there.
Yeah.
Right,
It's
right,
there,
right.
but
Yeah, yeah.
you've read into it. He hasn't intended it.
I don't think so. Right. Well,
No.
that was what I was trying to give him that credit. It was like, oh, you call him Bateman.
Mm.
And he's this psychopath who's got these weird sexual hangups.
Yeah. But I think he just thinks that's cool.
And that's my problem with
Yeah.
American Psycho, man. That's the problem with it, is that
Yeah.
it's not cool.
No, it's not cool.
And Bret Easton Ellis even wrote a book called, I think it's called Lunar Park, where Bret Easton Ellis is the main character in it, and he's being haunted by Patrick Bateman, who looks like
Okay.
he looks like
Christian Bale.
Christian Bale. It's genius.
Nice.
The book is great.
It's like those things we've spoken about before, isn't it? You know, like police wearing
Yeah.
Punisher shirts and people thinking, what's his name? The main character in The Boys, I got Homelander.
Yeah. He's not a hero.
It's these people, isn't it? The same ones probably think that Bateman's cool, and they think that Sid should get the girl at the end.
They do,
Hmm.
and they're all wrong.
Let's try and find something about the Stath, and let's talk. Maybe see if we can find. I think we've eviscerated the film, rightly so.
Yeah, and I hate that. You know, I'm not a big fan of that. Like, I don't like.
No.
I don't like to even drop a pop of something. I hate if we're doing a theme, it's different. But like, if I read books that I don't like the amount of books that I read that I don't pop about, because I'm like, I didn't like that, so I'm not going to do 4 minutes shitting on something unless it's like trigger warning. Everybody should avoid this book, you know. So, but this is the point of the show, and they're all. I'm sure they all look back on this movie, everybody who's in it, and was like, oof.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like this misses the mark, is it? Like it like misses the target completely. Like it's not ball. It's not just outside the ball. Do you know what I mean? It's so far off. It's
so bad.
Gone to a different arena. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So yeah,
but
Stath.
We spoke about how the actors actually are all putting in a good shift, and they're all trying, and they're all doing good work, including, I think, Stath. This is a very wordy film for him. Normally, his characters are quite stoic and reserved.
I think he says 8
words
in Wrath of Man.
Right. Yeah. Whereas
fantastic.
He has some proper monologues, doesn't he? How do you think he handled them?
I think he handled them pretty well. I think that's probably what made them all want to do the movie.
Mm-hmm.
They're not, I mean, Chris Evans has, spoken that he did Gifted. He does, he did Puncture. Like he wants to do not this. Like he has all the words in The Losers.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
He's having a ball in The Losers, right? He is having a blast saying all the words. Like I never got to be the Xander because I look like the angel, So like he got to nerd it up in that. He's so fun in The Losers. And so I am sure that they both were like, yeah, I mean, even in a crappy movie, if you do good work, you can somebody will pay attention. And so this did show off. Not only will the Stath wear a wig if you want him to, but that he can say words. And because at this point he is now the Stath.
He is, absolutely. Yeah.
And so it's he does, as you go through this, you'll know, and I know your sister keeps talking about Spy, but he definitely knows what he's doing in Spy, right? He knows why he's in that movie because he's like, oh, I can be that. Everybody remember I can act and do. I'm not just the Stath.
Yeah.
So I get why you want to do it, and I get why Chris Evans wants to do it because Chris Evans has never wanted to just be Captain America. He's always wanted to do more. And so while he's wearing a medium in this the whole time, and you're like, sorry, you don't drink and do that much coke and are that swole.
Sure.
You would be a little skinny rail. You would look like Dane Cook looks in this movie.
We can
not
talk about him in a minute if you want.
Yeah, sure. I mean, he's fine. He's playing Dane Cook.
Sure. I mean,
he's not doing anything. He's a bad actor.
Totally unnecessary.
He got put into movies because that was that stretch where they're like, we can get stand-up comics. They all start acting.
Yeah.
Mitch Hedberg was a stand-up comic, and he used to joke where they were like, hey man, you're a stand-up comic, so do you act? And he's like, that's like saying, hey man, you're a chef, do you farm? Like I don't understand. The two things are in the same. And then he did go on and like showed up on that 70s show for a bit, but because of course they just wrote the role for him to show up and be Mitch Hedberg. Hey man, but there was this stretch where if you were a stand-up comic, you got to act. And Dane Cook never got the memo, and it actually hurt his overall career, I think. But anyway, going back to Stath, sorry, I think Stath owns it. I think he gives the monologues. Even these terrible lines, he reads them with passion. And so in a shitty movie, it's amazing to have the four leads give really good performances, because I think that Joy does a really good job as Mallory, navigating that world and like playing it aloof. And of course, again, the male fantasy at the end, but I think the four leads are all good. And like you said, the supporting characters give it their all. But so Stath, I think it was like on his sizzle reel. He's like, hey, here's what I look like with hair. Let's choose to not do that again. Yeah. And here's what I look like acting.
I mean, he had a busy year in 2005. So this is my second, obviously his 12th movie, but the second one of this year. And I've still got two more to go. Yeah. So Revolver and Chaos are all within the same year. So we know that within the year or two before that was when he was obviously filming, because we know post-production, depending on the film, takes a bit of time. And when they decide to release it. But so he was really busy around this period. But you're right, he was the Stath, and this feels like this and Revolver, really. I know that's Guy Ritchie, but they're two films where he gets to talk and do something a bit different and play a different character.
Those are back to back. Revolver's next.
Yeah. Yay, go me.
Who's doing that one with you?
Chris.
I've not seen Revolver in a long time.
It's nowhere near as bad as this, I can tell you that.
Okay, well, what could be?
Good point. Very, very little. Yeah. I think he owns a role. I buy him as Bateman.
Sure.
I think he does put away the Stath and he does become Bateman. I think in his two big monologues when he's talking about the sex club and his impotency, I believe in what he's saying. I believe in those lines. The Ben Kingsley sexy beast, you cunt, pulls me out a little bit. It feels like they're getting him to do that because he's doing his Cockney. So like, oh yeah, you could do that, can't you? It doesn't quite fit in the moment. There's no more of that in the rest of the movie. I think
there's a couple of those moments where it's like you talked about with Jessica Biel's moment in the first sex scene. You're like, what's happening?
Yeah.
What movie is this?
But other than that, I think he's good. I mean, it's nice to hear him being, I'm going to say native accent, but it's what his affected native accent. It's nice to hear that. Nice to hear Isla Fisher being Australian too.
I know. It's always cool when I was watching the behind the thing behind the scenes thing on Fringe you sent me to hear both the two of them speak in their normal accent. It was
John
like,
Logan
oh, right.
and Sort of, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think Australians always have to do the hardest work because there's so few calls for Australians. That's why I like Rebel Wilson. She's like, fuck it. I can't do other accents. I'm always just going to be Australian in all my movies. And in the fake romantic comedy one where she's got one of the Helmsworths in it. And at the beginning of the movie, he's doing his normal, handsome, I've got this great American accent. And then in the fantasy world, he's Australian. She's like, wait, why are you talking with an Australian accent? He's like, because I'm Australian. She's like, are you? Is that allowed? Like, there's the whole commentary. Like, there's two Australians in one movie and we're allowed to talk this way? Yeah, it is nice to just and Isla Fisher's a really good actor.
Yeah, it's great.
She has some monologues too. I think you could, if you were trying out for an acting class and you were like trying to be I Am Jack's Impotent Rage and you wanted to go, you would take Stath's thing, and Stath gets it. He gets the part, man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I agree. He's really good in this.
Acting class is a great shout. That is what this is. This is, perhaps that's where this has come from, actually. Hunter Richards did some improv acting class and they came up with this moment. Oh, quick, I've got to write this down.
Write it down.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just such a shame, isn't it? I mean, we've referred to it all the way throughout. The wig is...
Oh, and Chris's wig, too. And they put
Jessica
in a lot of hair. It's bad.
So the Stath wig is really special.
Awful.
All people need to do is hit Google, go on IMDb, like see the poster. It is so bad, isn't it? It's like a weird comb over. It's the sort of thing I remember like my teachers having in the 80s.
Right, a wig with a comb over. What are we doing?
And he's meant to be
give
like
him hair?
and he's going home with Mallory with that hair. No chance.
No chance. It doesn't matter how sweet your accent is. I mean, the bald him has a way better chance with Mallory.
Absolutely. The Chris Evans one is weird because I thought for the longest time it was one of those caps with a wig attached.
Looked like that, didn't it?
Didn't it? Because then he takes it off and then he's still got kind of wiggy hair. It's really bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, and I understand that you're doing other things, and I didn't look to see what else Chris was doing at the time, and I get you and his looks more like his hair. I've seen him with hair, but that hair, and again, people dye their hair for movies, and Jessica Biel has a lot of hair going on, different hairstyles going on in this, so I get it, because you're doing time. So you wear the wig to deal with time, but here's the thought, I don't know, don't shoot it in order.
Sure, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, what I think you do is you'll have Chris grow his hair. You shoot those scenes, the coked up scenes, and then you cut it a little and you go back in time, and then you cut it more and you go back. So you can do it in three shooting series with different trimming your haircuts instead of whatever this is. It's so bad. I mean, it's like Henry and his mustache.
Oh yeah. It really is.
What are we doing? It's and again, with women in wigs, you're used to seeing it more, so you're not, and we're not women who wear wigs, so we could be easily fooled. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, that is a wig. I didn't know that wasn't your hair. I just thought that you did that to your hair, and you're like, oh, you didn't. That was extensions or whatever. So it doesn't look as bad on Jessica, but I also wonder how much she just is like, I'm just going to do it myself.
Sure. Yeah. I think
let me take care of it.
Yeah, I think the issue with the Stath is that even when he had hair, there wasn't a lot going on there. And Rhea and I joke in the Cellier episode about the fact that he's described as having his close cropped hair by Kim Basinger's character. Very polite of her to say that. Very thoughtful about her kidnapper to not call him out for being bald or being receding. So yeah, it just really stands out, doesn't it? It'd be like Patrick Stewart suddenly turning up in an episode of Next Gen wearing a wig. You'd be like, hang on, no.
Right,
you're bald. You are bald. You're like, that's who you are. Yeah, it's awful. It's so distracting.
Because it's not good. It's not a good wig. It's fine to put him in a wig. That happens. Actors wear wigs and they do, but again, this is a low budget film. So why did you think that's the money where you're spending your money? Hair and makeup matter. There's a reason they win awards. They did not for this.
No, it was another chance. This could have been another chance for commentary as well. You have the character. No. Yes, you have the character wearing a wig because it's about him hiding who he really is. It's
exactly. That comes off. It would have been awesome.
It's another moment they could have had where like we say, like he's trying to disguise who he is and he's finally past his impotent rage. So yeah, he throws the wig like a mortarboard at the graduation off the bit. But no, it was just a bad wig.
And it was a bad wig. And and again, you're giving it credit for saying, "Ooh, it could be."
Yes.
It's supposed to be a bad wig on purpose, but this movie isn't subtle enough to leave that there for us to be like, "Oh, it was a bad wig on purpose." Haha. It's not like True Grit, where the reason everybody sounds the same is because it's being told from the perspective of a 14-year-old girl who's very well read. So that's why Rooster Cogburn sounds like that. It's not because he sounds like that. It's because Maddie Ross thinks he sounds like that.
Yeah.
That's why that is such a brilliant book. And the movie and the one with Haley is fucking perfect. Because Jeff Bridges knew the assignment. He's like, oh, I have to talk like a 14-year-old girl thinks I talk. So it's on the nose. It doesn't have to be commented on because we get the voiceover at the beginning and the end of that movie. And in the book, it's all told in her perspective. So you get it. There's no breadcrumbs here.
No.
To let you know that this is aware of itself, that the wig is everything. You gave it so much credit.
Well, we've both been doing that all through this.
It's true. Because we respect these actors.
Sure. Yeah. And, I think, I'm particularly being hard on the director. I think you're much politer about how you're coming at this at the writer-director. But
it's bad.
Yeah, if I could find things to say, I'd love to do that too. But I think, we're trying to give it credit and we're trying to find things to be interesting discussion points. Where I think what we're doing all the work, we're bringing it to something that wasn't originally there.
Which is what we do anyway. No, I mean that's the joy of art is that you give it, is that you find something there. I mean, we watched it all. Like if I wasn't for this assignment, I would have stopped.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
So
thank you for calling it an assignment.
Well, it is.
In this instance,
or Death Race is a pleasure.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't wait for Death Race. I mean, Joan Allen's in that movie too. I don't even understand how I don't understand how that movie got made in a different way that I don't understand how this movie got made. They're like, you know what we should do? Let's remake Corman's Fever Dream. Okay, let's get Statham. Okay. Okay, I'm in. And then it spun off into the fake Jason Statham Death Race universe too, which we'll talk about in a little while. So I understand.
You know what I'm going to end up doing after we watch
them all.
Yeah,
they're bad. Luke Goss is no Jason Statham. He's fine, but he's not. Yeah, I just don't get this film, but it's fine. I honestly am glad I saw it because I'll always have seen it now, and I do think you can always find something.
Yeah.
If we gave it more credit than it deserved, than it earned, but you made art. It was more movies than we've made.
Absolutely, yeah. So you always have seen it once.
You've seen it twice.
One and done. Yeah, but say if it wasn't for this project, it would have been one and done. Absolutely. And I think for Glyn, it sounds like he's one and done too.
Yeah, let's hear. You've got. I would love to hear what Glyn has to say, please.
So he said, "Oh, so Jack, I should have listened to your warnings. I've just watched London. It's possibly the worst movie I've ever seen." He's channeling Chris here. I love it.
Chris Phelps. Yeah.
It starts like The Secret Life of Pets and has the worst ending of any movie ever. I haven't seen The Secret Life of Pets, but I'm sure it doesn't start with a sex scene and a blowjob, but maybe.
I mean, I hope not. That's a children's film.
Absolutely, yeah. And he said, it just doesn't seem to have a genre. It's just shit. Although I do think the state's acting was top during the impotent scene, which,
totally true.
And I said, yeah, I've got to agree with all of this. It's pretentious and vapid, whilst believing it's talking big questions and big thoughts. The acting is decent, but there's only so much you can do with dialogue that overwrought and overwritten. So all these things we've said. And I called it Toxic Masculinity, the movie.
So true.
And then we had some more backwards and forwards. But
oh, thanks, Glenn. You are a trooper, man.
Yeah, and I mean, essentially, that's what I was saying to him. I was like, I'm so grateful for you to listening, one, two, watching along, and I'm so sorry that you've watched London. And then he messaged me a couple of days later and said, "Oh, now I'm watching 13." He might have a new worst movie ever.
13. Oh, I don't think I've watched 13 ever.
I thought I had, and then when we had a brief conversation about it, I think I was getting it mixed up with 21, which is the Jim Sturgis movie.
Oh yeah, that's the card one, the card counting one. Yeah, so I've seen that.
13 was. I don't think I was in 13 either, actually. So that is
what a cast, though.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we'll get there.
Wow.
Because we have to
Okay.
get there, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Glyn might have found an equal worst best film ever, according to
Nice. Well,
his messages there.
fantastic. Well, I'm definitely going to give it a go. I'll give it a try. Yeah.
Got to, haven't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
Any other thoughts on London that you feel like you need to share?
I mean, I think everybody should avoid it. But again, if you are trying out for an acting class, if you're
Mm.
trying for an off Broadway show, like off Broadway, like Cleveland, and you need a good audition piece for Angry Impotent Man, I would say do it. Channel the Stath and do it.
Sure.
That is what I have to say about that.
All right. So before we get your
Yes.
totally surprising rating, which,
Yeah.
I wonder,
Letterbox. Yeah.
should have a little read of what we've got on Letterboxd. Okay. So IB Floria says London, aka Chris Evans and Jason Statham with hairdos. No, sorry, I've totally butchered it. Sorry, IB Floria. London, aka Chris Evans and Jason Statham with hair, do copious amounts of cocaine while philosophizing about religion, Van Gogh, and BDSM in between Statham screaming about impotence and Evans mourning the loss of sexy times with Jessica Biel. With a plot description that wild, it's unforgivable this movie ended up not only absurd, but interminably dull.
So well said.
Well said, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you tag these people when you put the shows out?
I don't because the letterbox tag is not it's not like a Twitter tag.
Oh, okay.
Obviously,
Gotcha.
I've got my Amjacks meetings, which is my complete
Right.
sort
Yeah.
of online, but I could put my letterbox profile name as anything I wanted, so it wouldn't necessarily link. So it's
Wouldn't be
hard.
the same person. I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
it's a
I
shame
appreciate that
because
was an excellent review. All
it
the ones
was.
you read are all very good. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So, but hopefully one day these people will hear it and appreciate the fact that I wanted to share their lovely words
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
our listenership. Mag says, no idea what this movie is about, but it's nice that Isle Fisher was allowed to be Australian for once.
It is.
Also, and this is the most important takeaway, Jason Statham was not meant to have hair. No, certainly not hair like this.
Uh-uh. Is that why he went into diving? Because he had to shave anyway?
Yeah, maybe.
Is that what it was?
Maybe,
Yeah.
yeah. Cecily says, I thought this was bad at first, but then Jason Statham and Chris Evans were screaming at each other and talking about dicks and their ex-lovers. And I wish that was the entire film. 3 stars for them and their bathroom confession time. That is the highest rated review I found. 3 stars is very generous.
Because there's only 4, right? Or is there 5?
5, yeah.
There is 5. Okay. Wow.
But even in its celebration, it's quite critical.
Yeah.
Jennifer, in this movie, Jason Statham has more lines, more emotion, and you know what's coming next?
More hair.
More hair than in all his other movies combined. Chris Evans is playing that annoying guy everyone knows who took a class once and forever after spouts off bullshit he thinks is intellectual. He even has all the generic tattoos you'd expect from such a self-important idiot. Also, this is not an action movie. There's a fight scene that lasts like a minute. I know it has Jason Statham, but that doesn't make this an action movie. This is a breakup movie with lots of yelling and drugs, and for some reason, Jessica Biel gets undressed a lot. I mean, we know
That's it.
why Hunter Richards wanted to see her without any clothes on.
And he did.
He did. And then, of course, Lou Shoemaker. A mediocre drama that reteams Jason Statham and Chris Evans. London does the unthinkable. It makes Jason Statham uncool. I didn't know it was possible, but just look at him. And then he links to the still of him with the picture.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that his character only exists to give long monologues about his disgusting and humiliating sexual fetishes.
Wow. It's so bad.
Yeah, I mean, when I was researching it, there is very little on the internet about this film. Unsurprisingly, I literally couldn't find what the budget was. It's just not out there. Did you see how much?
Nobody wants to know.
No. Did you see how much it made at the box office?
Let's see if I can find it. I'm scrolling. Wow. Well, this says the budget is £14,000.
Oh, okay. You found a budget. All right.
Yeah, and it grossed $20,000. So that's about breaking even.
Yeah. So overall, like worldwide box office, the figure I've got is 200,361.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, I guess if it only costs 14 grand, I find that very hard to believe.
Yeah, I mean, unless everybody owed Hunter, unless he had nudie pictures of them they didn't want released,
Yeah,
I don't
right.
understand.
It's like that movie 41. I don't know how they got the cast for that. They must have had serious information on all those actors. Yeah, 14,000 sounds
Fake.
fake to me. Yeah, yeah. You can't get these actors in for 14,000 and make the film.
And
Yeah,
make the film, just the
no.
film alone. I mean, I know this is shot probably, well, 2005, were they shooting on digital by 2005?
Mm, I wouldn't have thought so. No,
I wouldn't either.
not
And
this level of filmmaking because it still would have been really expensive.
yeah,
Even.
and this is a Samuel Goldman production. They decided to release this film. I do not understand. I mean, like,
yeah.
here's the thing, like they killed Batgirl as a tax write-off. Is that what this is? They're like, let's lose money. Let's make a shit movie so we can have let's give this kid, we found the script, it's terrible. We'll spend all this money. And maybe it's 14 million, but it looks like it comes up as 14,000 on IMDb.
Yeah.
But maybe it was 14 million pounds, so $20 million.
Yeah.
So maybe if you were just trying to lose money, like the producers.
Sure. Yeah.
Like that could be this. Let's just give it, that's what this was.
So yeah, in terms of his I mean, not the box office is the be all and end all, but Transporter 2 made near enough 90 million. Cellular made nearly 60. Collateral, which I know is not really his film, that may be Buck's Italian Job. He's definitely a key feature of that. That made 176. Even the first Transporter, 44 million. So
on a really shoestring budget too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. For what it is. So 200,000. Yeah, safe to say this was it's
got to be his biggest flop.
It's got to be, yeah, definitely. And there's a few that don't do well down the line, but this was an experiment that, didn't go the way he wanted it to. I wouldn't have thought.
Or I don't know. I have no idea. But yeah, this is clearly a for what's the ratings? I don't want to say the words wrong.
So classic, worth catching.
Oh, completist only. Completist only. You and me and Glenn, and everyone else should never see it ever.
Yeah.
I believe your sister's already seen it though, so she knows.
She knows. Yeah.
It's fucking terrible. That's my final word on it. It is really, really terrible. Like the tags, my favorite thing. Like I don't know if you ever on IMDb they do tags. So here's the tags. The top 5 tags: female rear nudity, bare butt, talking about sex, paying for sex, and fetish sex. Those are the top 5 tags. Okay.
So we know who this film's for, don't we? And it's not you and me.
Not you and me. And this says, one man's incredible journey of self-discovery is the tagline on IMDb. Really? I don't think you saw this film.
No. What does he discover? That he's an asshole.
Yeah. This does say
he doesn't, sadly.
He doesn't discover anything. This does say they were together for 2 years, Chris and Jessica. So I think that's the only way you can get away with shooting those scenes because they're
makes perfect sense.
Ugh, this is so bad. Sony Pictures. Unbelievable.
But I tell you what, a terrible 90-ish minute film has resulted in a very enjoyable hour-long chat with you. So
yeah, I think I appreciate it too. Yep, I think us talking about it, like us Stadler and Waldorfing this film, was definitely better than the film. But I think 100%. sometimes that's just true, right? I mean, the Mystery Science Theater 3000 version of things is often better. Like, I just watched a movie that I'm going to try to dare Dan to watch. It's just so bad, but I saw it on Riff Tracks. And so it's so good on Riff Tracks. I was like, oh my God, I love this film on Riff Tracks. And the Cool as Ice, the Vanilla Ice movie.
Sure.
Which you think you watched because they watched it on VHS Strikes Back.
I didn't because that was pre me watching along with where they were. Yeah.
Well, I would say if you're ever going to watch Cool as Ice, the only way to watch it is the Riff Tracks version. Okay. So you're watching the movie and you don't, not like Mystery Science Theater, you don't see them down there, but it's like the 3 of them. They're just talking over it. It is almost a perfect film with them narrating over the top.
Nice.
I think that might be I would rewatch this that way. If we rewatched it, we did a live stream and we talked over the top of it, that would be the only way this would be enjoyable.
Okay. Maybe we'll do that as like an end of filmography.
Yeah.
Bonus treat for everyone.
Your listeners want to know what will happen when you move on to the next one. But Stath is going to keep making movies. Will there be a bonus back to the filmography? So when you finish Stath's filmography and then you're moved on to back to the Filmography season 2, but then Stath drops another movie because he's got like 47 in his pipeline. Will you then do a bonus episode of
definitely.
Back to the, and you'll just keep going like that?
Yeah. So
okay, I just want to make sure.
Drop them in like off schedule, but as you said, like as a bonus one, because I want to keep pace with what he's doing and see how his career continues to develop.
Yeah, okay, I just want to make sure that the people are clamoring.
Yeah. all those people, Tony.
Me.
All those person, Tony. Yep.
Yeah, all those person. All that person, me. Yes. Well, thank you for this. This was a joy, but I definitely think maybe down the line this would be a fun
absolutely
that's
a great
watch
idea.
Along to shit on. I did it when I taught Scarlet Letter once for American Lit. I promised them that if they were good throughout the semester, at the end, the last day of class, we would watch the terrible Gary Oldman
Demi Moore
one where Dimsdale lives at the end. The fuck. I said we would watch that on the last day of class, and we would just talk.
Right.
And so they were good, and we did. It was so fun.
Nice.
That movie's awful. I mean, those two are amazing, and that movie's terrible. That's another one of those ones where you're like, oh, how did this get made? I don't understand. So that would be the only way to ever rewatch this. If you were going to watch it with a group of friends, maybe with cocktails, talking over the top of it. Maybe you could even do a drinking game, take a drink every time they do a bump.
Oh my God. Yeah. All right. We'll keep that in mind.
Keep that in mind.
I'll be working on hardening my bladder. Not bladder, hardening my not bladder as well, actually, to be fair. Yeah,
hardening my liver and everything. Yeah.
I cannot thank you enough.
It was fun.
For me, this is easily the worst so far. And somebody had to take it. So I really appreciate it.
You do it.
So we are due out. Just thinking about what we can promote. We are due out on the 26th of September. So what? Just under 3 weeks away. What have you got coming up?
I've got there'll be a show on this Thursday that is I interviewed 2 guys who have a new comic coming out. It's about office politics at a sex toy company. It's called Aerotech, and that comes out this Thursday, the Thursday after this comes out. And that is
actual product that's self-aware.
It is so self-aware. It's so brilliant. Yeah. And so there's issue 2 is being kickstarted. And so we talk issue 1. And so the Kickstarter comes out, I think, a couple days after this. So that comic is hysterical. Aerotech, it's called. You can go buy it from there. There'll be links in that show notes for all their stuff. But that's the next thing that's coming up is that but I'm really excited. That was a really fun chat with them, and that comic is hysterical. So yes, it is good to have something be self-aware and know what it's doing.
Great. Thank you, mate. And thank you everyone else for listening and partaking in this journey with me through the Stath Filmography. That was London. And as said, next up in a fortnight is Revolver, followed by Chaos, all from 2005. For anyone that is watching along. I'm Jack's Musings, and that's JACS. And you can find me on Twitter, where I'm most active. You can also contact the show directly on Twitter under the name Back to the Filmog. Make sure you use the hashtag #FollowTheFilmography. This show has been presented to you by the Pop Gorillas, a collection of hive minds who provide spoiler-free reviews of anything from pop culture, in less time than it takes to listen to a song. I'm also a proud member of the Comics Emotion family, a super place full of the world's greatest people, dedicated to bringing you podcasts on a variety of geeky topics. So please make sure you take the time to search, subscribe, and rate our shows wherever you listen. Until next time, be excellent to each other and make sure you take the time to treat yourself too. I am Jack signing off. Yippee-ki-yay, movie lovers. Cut.